Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And in this case, we're going to be talking all about service dogs with Retrieving Independence. We're joined by their CEO, Lauren Dougall. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and start with a little bit of context and some history. Give us a little bit of history for Retrieving Independence.
Yeah, absolutely. So the mission of Retrieving Independence is to harness love, dignity, and change to transform lives through the human-animal bond. And we do that through an innovative service dog training program that's goal is to give greater independence to people living with physical, emotional, or mental disabilities. It also offers rehabilitation to inmate trainers at 2 Tennessee prison facilities and creates community for over 100 dedicated volunteers. So basically, we're training service dogs with volunteers and prison inmates, and then placing those service dogs once they're ready to go with people who need them. And it's really that simple. So changing lives through the love and companionship of a dog.
So let's go ahead and dive in, because what you do is hard work, but it's heart work. And so when you talk about service dogs, let's go ahead and kind of dive into like how you find the right breeds. Give us some background on what makes a perfect service dog.
Yes, it's a whole world. So there's more that I could tell you than we have time for today, but I can give you sort of service dog 101, which is we have our own breeding program. So we breed our own dogs. They are mostly labs, which are super smart dogs. And we also have golden retrievers, which is kind of where our name comes from, Retrieving Independence. And then also for those who need hypoallergenic dogs, we also breed labradoodles because they shed less and they're also very smart. So those are the breeds that are really a lot of different kinds of dogs. Can be working dogs or service dogs, but these are known to have the kind of ability, temperament, and just aptitude for training that service dogs need. And what they need is to be able to develop a bond and trust with the person, to know what they need, and to be able to learn a really long list of tasks and cues, and to be able to have a temperament where they're able to make good choices in public all the time. So to ignore when we have pets, they might steal a shoe, and we might solve that problem by putting our shoes away. That's not the case for service dogs. They need to be able to choose to leave the shoe there, or in another instance, bring the shoe to their person because they might need them to do that. So it's all about choices for service dogs, and they're super smart and very, very specifically and highly trained. So they really know what they are supposed to do. It's remarkable, all the things that they're able to do for people. And there's lots of different kinds of service dogs, which I can tell you about as well. But the most important thing is that they're able to choose not to respond to stimuli around them so that they can focus on doing their job for their person.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Do go ahead and kind of illustrate at least some of the different types of service dogs, and then talk about the training that's required, because as you mentioned, it's very detailed, it's very specific task oriented. So what does that look like on your end before you even do the matchmaking side and that sort of training?
Yes, so it's really fascinating and fun to learn about. So I'll start with different kinds of service dogs. So the general term that you might hear is service dog or assistance dog, and that is a general term that covers all different kinds. We have medical alert dogs. That might be a dog that alerts a person for seizures or diabetes, like low blood sugar, that kind of thing. So letting them know, hey, you're about to have a medical event and you need to get yourself somewhere safe or get your medication, something like that. We also have seeing eye dogs and hearing dogs. Those are dogs that, of course, assist individuals with audio or visual impairments of varying degrees. So I think those are the ones that most people are most familiar with. And it gets even deeper than that. So we also have mobility assistance dogs. If somebody has difficulty getting around, a dog can help you get in and out of a chair, can provide stability while you're walking and getting around, that kind of thing. And even more interesting than that There are assistance dogs, service dogs that can support people with mental disabilities. So their noses are remarkable. They can actually smell changes in your cortisol or your, your chemicals. So if you're having, for example, if you are a person who unfortunately suffers with PTSD and you're not tuned into your own shifts in mood, or you're having kind of a trauma response, your dog can alert you or can alert somebody else so that you can get assistance that way. And so there's lots of different kinds. But we also have, there's facility dogs that are assigned to a specific building or facility that support many individuals through sort of therapeutic support, comfort, and informing people maybe when people are having those shifts in anxiety. Or there's therapy dogs as well. Now, those are not assistance or service dogs. They can be any animal trained and have gone through. And what they do is provide comfort and support to people in situations like natural disasters or in maybe medical institutions, things like that. Different kind of working dog, still very important, but not, they don't have the same access, for example, as a service or assistance dog. So it's a whole world.
Yeah, I mean, that's extremely fascinating. And just the level of specific like focus when you're talking about being able to smell a change in, like, for the PTSD side, like that's awesome. So talk about how the training then goes to be part of it. Because I mean, I can imagine that's pretty intense training.
Yes, and kind of what you're talking about there with those, the specific need that they're being trained for is really how that training works. So dogs are really born into being a service dog. From the minute that they arrive, they're kind of their training kind of begins, and it starts very, very low key. It's just basic socialization and development neurologically to get them off to the best possible start. And with us, we have teams of, our volunteers are puppy raisers. So they go from mom to puppy raisers at 16 weeks or 8 weeks, excuse me. And they stay with them for a full 8 weeks. And that's really when we're focusing on that socialization and making sure that they get exposed to important experiences in the world and other dogs and all sorts of things, so that they really get off to being a well-rounded dog from the get-go. At 16 weeks, they actually enter our prison facilities and start working with their inmate trainers. And that is really when, like, training begins. Up to the age of around 8 months, it's really focused on just all the things that a service dog generally would need to know, which would be things like not barking, not being responsive, alerting to any kind of thing, going and getting things for people, pushing buttons and opening and closing things, all kinds of very, very common things. Going under tables in public, they need to know how to kind of sit calmly. It's a lot to do with just like not being reactive and responsive to things in public. And so that's what the bulk of the training is about in that first 8 months. It's really at the point where they're matched with their person, which is around 8 months, that things start to get very, very specific. So if they're matched with somebody for medical alert or PTSD or mobility, we start to get really specific. So we learn about that person's life, what it looks like day to day. And we can learn what they need in terms of task and assistance. And we start training very, very specifically for that. So it will be going and getting medication. It might be alerting. And if it is a medical alert or PTSD where it requires that use of the nose, we'll do scent training. And that requires the individual to provide scent via t-shirt that they send to us. And we actually like connect the dog to their scent long before they ever knowing their scent and what they're smelling for, which is very interesting. And it just gets more and more specific. And what's really, really fascinating about it is it's really not just about the training. It's about them fitting in and bonding deeply with them in their life. So our volunteers, who are amazing and very dedicated individuals, take the dogs out on furlough weekends every weekend to make sure that the dogs are getting the opportunity to implement the training that our inmate trainers are doing on the outside world. We can't possibly just do the training in prison facilities because it doesn't look like what real life looks like in there. So what they're doing is seeing how the dogs do with real life experience around them at the same time. But we'll also learn what our clients and recipients do in their spare time. So if, for example, they like to hike or go kayaking or go to baseball games, we'll make sure that before the dogs graduate, they do all of those things. So they've had all of those experiences. If they work in a warehouse and their dog's going to go to work with them, they'll go to a warehouse so that that's not a new thing for them, and they know how to be when they go to work.
Yeah, I love it. So you mentioned volunteers. I mean, obviously there's a lot of ways to plug into what you do. So how can the community help your efforts?
Yes. Well, if you are someone that likes puppies, then I got good news for you, because we need puppy raisers all the time. We need puppy raisers and we need puppy sitters, and even just furlough volunteers. So if you are somebody who would love to have a dog, but you maybe aren't ready for that long-term commitment, or perhaps you live somewhere that isn't best suited for a dog or doesn't allow pets, you can you can have one on weekends, and even just one weekend a month if that is something that you're interested in. And because we are working with service dogs in training, they are able to go everywhere. And I really do mean everywhere. They can go to your apartment complex that doesn't allow pets. It's an ADA requirement that they be allowed. They have all the same access rights as fully trained service dogs. That's how they get to being one. And so it's a really great way to kind of spend time with dogs, learn a lot about training them, or being a very good, responsible dog owner for the future, but not having that long-term commitment until you're ready to. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to do that. So we need that all the time, whether it's puppies or older dogs that you're more comfortable working with. And the way that you can learn more about that and sign up is at our website. We provide all the training and all the things that you need to do that. So we'll help you get through it, because it is a lot, and it's a lot of work, but you can do it on whatever you're able to do. So even if it's just one weekend a month or every other month, that would be great for us. So anyone who wants to hang out with some very smart and very cute, adorable dogs, and also really be contributing to a full circle mission that helps a lot of people. It helps people who are going through rehabilitation in the incarceration system. It helps people who are, experiencing physical, emotional, and mental disabilities, and also just creates community for a really great bunch of volunteers who are doing amazing work. So come join us.
Absolutely. Go ahead and give us one thing or maybe two that you wish everyone knew about interacting with service dogs. So for the public, what should we know?
Yes, that's a really important thing, and I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. No matter how much you want to pet the dog and talk to the dog, please don't. The dog is working, and they are there to help the person that they are assisting and that they're bonded with. And it may not be immediately obvious to you what their disability is or why they have a service dog. That's okay. There is a reason for it. And, you need to leave the dog be. Now, what you can do is ask if if the dog can greet you. That is how it works. So it is possible at times to pet and interact with a service dog. That is the good news that I have, because it would just be very difficult if not. But the way that it works is their handler or their person has to instruct them to greet you. Once they do that, you can talk to them and pet them. But until that instruction has been given, they need to be really not acknowledged and certainly not touched. Now, often they're wearing a vest, or always they're wearing a vest that says, "I'm working, please do not pet me." But we're all people, we're all human beings. You see a cute dog, and like most people's instinct is, "I want to pet that dog." And it does make it very difficult for both the dog and the person in public. And also, I think the other thing to know is just our pets when we're in dog friendly places, we have to be mindful of how they interact with them as well. So just being respectful and responsive to that, because these dogs are working and they're providing a very important and sometimes very critical in terms of safety for a person. So to interfere with it in any way, whether it's yourself as a person or a dog, is not great. So we just need to, as the public, be respectful and considerate when we see a working dog.
Yeah. Well, you've given us a ton of helpful information and insight, which I greatly appreciate. Go ahead and wrap up with the contact information. So website, social media, where do we go to learn more and start getting involved?
Yeah, thank you so much. We are at riservicedogs.org. And you can find all of the information there about volunteering. You can sign up. You can see all of that great info there and lots more. Our Instagram is at Retrieving Independence, and we are on Facebook at RI Service Dogs. So you can find all of our info there, and we would love to hear from you and have everybody join us as volunteer.
Absolutely. The organization again is Retrieving Independence, the website riservicedogs.org. So Lauren, thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.